What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 189 of Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone, brought to you by NetRush and Sellozo. And today we're going to sort of step back a little bit from, we get into a lot of details and the nuance of selling on Amazon, but today we're going to talk about what to look for in a mentor, because it's so important to surround yourself with the right people to help accelerate your business, your personal life. Everything is it's a accumulation of the people that are around you. So finding the right ones is super important. And joining us today to talk about this is one of our favorites, also a local Kansas City guy, which we got
guy.
we got to represent the Midwest. So we got Drew Morgans on with us today, the founder of Marknology. What's up, Drew?
What's up, guys? It's good to be back. I got a message from, I think, your podcast PR, biz dev lady. And I was like, I've already been on the show, but like, can I be on it again? Like, let's go. And she said, sure, let's go. So I'm excited to be back.
We just started that. We just started that like reach out, because it's a lot of work to like reach out constantly reach out. So we just started that. So hopefully it was a good experience.
No, I'm glad to be back. And I was like, cool, I'm going to lock them in for at least 30 minutes or an hour. I'm going to catch up and see how things are going. I know, we're brought by Sellozo and NetRush. I hadn't gotten to talk to you guys about all the details of that. So that's really cool. Congratulations. I remember being excited just to have Sellozo in Kansas City. And, this is a community for me. That's how I think. I'm a community builder. I like being part of a community. So it was like, cool, another Amazon company, helping us build meetups, helping us build awareness, helping us build, put Casey on the map. I'm excited about what you guys are doing and excited to be back on the show.
Well, we are very excited. For everyone who wants to listen to our initial conversation, that was episode 53, about a year and a half ago. Obviously, a lot's happened since then. You're having a ton of success with Marknology. Obviously, we're growing and expanding as well. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a wild ride for a year and a half. But it's just so fun. And yes, there's e-commerce is alive and well in the Midwest. You don't always have to go to the coasts to do that. There's a lot going on here. So we're going to be talking with you a lot about doing some stuff for people in the Midwest. So if you're listening right now and you're in the Midwest, closer to Kansas City, we are going to try to do a lot of different meetups and conferences here, which is missing.
Missing. I'm excited about that. We'll drop some knowledge to everybody, the followers, subscribers. But I think like whether it's this year or next year, expect to see some really cool stuff. And I would love to do it with you guys. We'll bring in a little bit of money, from the coast, maybe, so they can put some money into the city, just for fun. Right. But no, look for it. There's stuff in Minneapolis, Chicago, Illinois, these places, but there's smaller things kind of going on. I would love to do something in our city and see if we can pull those things, those crowds in, maybe some great experts, from around the globe bring something special to us here. But I'm excited about today's topic too. It's not one I always get to talk about. Honestly, I think we can relate it to Amazon mentorship. We can relate it to anything really. But it was a huge part, the absence of it. And then when I got it, huge impacts on my life. Especially around Amazon entrepreneurship, but also like the EQ and the mindset stuff that goes into being a founder.
Well, the last like 18 months or so, you've been traveling to all these little small meetups, trying to meet with these bigger, I guess, mentors. So like the thing I'm getting to is like, even though you may not consider yourself a mentor, or you may not look at yourself as a mentor, you are a mentor, but you also have mentors. Like it's always like next step.
I think every mentor should have mentees, and should have their own mentor. I think that is just the process. And that's why whenever you get a mentor as a mentee, it's your job to pay it back. You got to pass that down. That's the baton. I'm going to tell a little story right here, if that's okay. You set me up perfectly. But we all have imposter syndrome. We have all these things that say like, how can I mentor someone else? Like, what do I know about anything? Like, especially once you start learning something, that's what's crazy. Once you start learning something about business, it's like you actually just learn that you know way less. So it's intimidating. Like, and I've been, honestly, e-commerce is a space where you have to continually learn. So I have been learning for the last going on 11 years straight. It feels like a college degree constantly, So it's like you're constantly learning, and you're constantly learning that you know nothing. It's like this weird paradox. But I used to not even be able to speak, much less be on this podcast, or like, I'm speaking in Vegas, which I'm super pumped about. We were talking about it earlier, and I'll have to overcome that, those nerves. But like, I used to just get like stutter, and I couldn't talk, or like I would just emotional overload. Like, my body would shut down, even if I wanted to had something great to say. So it's like, how do you get through these things? Well, through mentorship in some ways, right? And some of it was, this is how it started. There was there's Amazon, not exclusives.
Live?
No, Launchpad. Okay, there's
Launchpad.
Launchpad. And I didn't know everything about Launchpad, because what I didn't know was that it was only for crowd-funded brands, at least at the time. And I was like, as an Amazon expert, I really am trying to know everything. And I was like, this is something that if they come to me, I wouldn't know how to break down, like how you join it, how you belong with it. So I started looking into it, and it was crowdfunding. Well, I knew that there was a professor at UMKC, our local university, for anyone listening here, that had a professor who had a doctorate in crowdfunding. Okay. So I reached out to him, I think on LinkedIn, and was like, hey, I would love to have a coffee interview with you. Just learn more about, your degree and how that works. So I didn't know you could even get a doctorate in crowdfunding. We met at the local coffee shop, the Rose Tree. I picked his brain, and I was just like, I really learned like people that are doing Kickstarters and things like that. He gathered tons of data, and that's my language. So he just gathered tons of data across all these crowdfundings and like what worked and what didn't work. And he's like, it's really almost putting the same amount of work in as launching a brand. So I'm learning some of this from him. I'm like, okay. He's like, what you need is like, you need some mentors. Do you have one? And I really had resisted. I guess I had tried, but like, I was absorbing Gary Vee and all of that, just for anything positive, anything business focused. And I couldn't find a mentor. In this Amazon space, there wasn't really anyone doing it like I was trying to do it, or like even putting out content like that in the service-based side. I think people were building brands and doing a lot of like, high-level things, but they weren't putting out content, and they weren't like necessarily charging to do it for others. So that was kind of where, when I say unique, like that's really where I felt unique. And so because no one was listening to the Amazon business model at that time, no one was listening to me, I felt like the mentorship was too broad. And I have a point with this, I promise. It was like just too high level. It was like, don't do too many things. Don't like do this, don't do that. But it wasn't anything actionable to help me with like building an agency when I didn't know how to build one. So I hadn't really taken a mentor because I didn't feel like people listened. If they're not listening to your actual stuff, I'm not trying to take that advice, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to join this eScholars program at UMKC. I'm listening to this professor. I go in there, he makes an intro to me. I'm introing with the guy. And so I don't know if you guys know, but at the business block school at UMKC, one of the biggest things is that they have about 100 mentors that if you join the eScholars program, you get like paired with mentors. And it's one of the only schools in the nation where you get that level of mentorship in addition to the professors and everything else. So for some people, that's very sought after to have that like kind of insured mentorship. So
it's like priceless.
Yeah, right. I at least think of it now, like, at this age, like I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like I'll sign up for this program. It's like it's called the eScholars. It's maybe like a year long. But you get it's like you can be any age, it's not just students, right? So I'm also like, I can get practice speaking. So I go to sign up to be a student, and he's like, the leader of the program, Philip, is like, you're too far advanced to get the mentors, like to join the program. But if you mentor, I'll let you join the program for free, and you can basically hang out with the other mentors. And so I'm like, okay, that's a good trade. And that's not how I got access to my first mentors. Number one, it was like, mentors from finance to sales to tax to everything, just like people that have been 40, 50 years in an industry that are now mentoring at the college. So that was like my first access to mentorship. But what they taught me early on there, when I was really trying to get my legs under me, was, you believe that if you don't have 30 years of experience or whatever, you're like, what do I have to say to these kids? I was speaking at some of the classes too. It's part of it. You like do guest speaking and everything. I'm like, what do I have to say to these kids? Like, I'm just like barely older than them, and I'm just figuring it out. And what one of them said to me was, mentorship, like, you really are in the best position to mentor someone else the closer you are to them. And I don't mean that as like brother and sister or whatever. I just mean like in age, in business. Like if me and you are in the same spot, I actually am like probably can give Chris the best advice because we're very similar in what we're doing and things like that, and like what I've learned and what I've not learned. Versus, and I can give you tactical advice. Like this is how I'm talking to brand owners, for example, about, their brand, versus like a higher level, someone with 30, 40 years of experience. Even though they're so much more experienced, the advice they're going to give is very broad and generic instead of tactical. And that was a small little thing, but it was this light bulb in my head. Not just I was getting the mentorship, but it was about passing the mentorship on, and how I saw myself. Like, would I even say I was a mentor? Like in my head, I made it small a little bit, but it was really the thinking of like, to all those people listening, like you're actually in the best position to mentor other people when you're really close to them. You're not much better than them, or you're not that much more experienced, because there's that proximity and that relativity of being very close. And that just really has empowered me and charged me up ever since, when I'm talking to, people around my age or younger than me where I don't feel qualified. So I know that's a little bit of a story, but
No, that's good.
How I got my first mentors, and then how I really frame, even being able to speak to other people, talking to like, I'm going to speak at Prosper. There's people there that are worth millions more than me. How do you get your mindset right to be able to say, I have anything to teach them?
And that's what you just mentioned. And I want to talk about mindset. Like it's a mind shift. Like when you're either seeking mentorship or you're mentoring other people, you got to kind of have that, like, I don't want to say that, maybe like ego, take it back a little bit and just be willing to help. Humility. There you go. Yeah. You got to be able to like, you're sharing your knowledge, and you may be sharing secrets that could be a competitor of you someday, but that's not the mindset to have.
Yeah, abundance, and information and knowledge is not to be held. It's not to be held and put into like a safe lockbox. It's to be shared, and giving and receiving. You can't just be a giver. Like you got to be able to receive as well. And that's been a big lesson for me. But I won't. That's a whole nother topic. I think when we think about selecting a mentor, one thing that I think is important, is, a mentor that could have been, I think, one, you need like 3 at all times. If you can have 3 mentors, you need like a variety, and different ones you can pull on, because they're going through their same stuff all the time as well. And you'll see stuff come up in their life and down their life, and, deaths or births or business problems, and they won't be available, and you could really need them. So I think it's good to have a few. If you're in my case too, like, I can be stubborn. So, being able to get kind of like not too much feedback, but like, people that you trust. What's the scripture, like in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, I think, is like really where you're able to get like good advice, if you can get 2 or 3 people kind of giving you the same feedback. Mm-hmm. But it's also, you have to reevaluate what you needed. Like, so like, business can move so fast, and what you needed in a mentor 3 years ago might not be what you need in a mentor now. Or it could have been that at that time that mentor had a lot to teach you. But 3 years goes fast, and we're all like learning at different speeds and different times and what's going on. And it might be time for, a different kind of mentor, maybe an EQ mentor or something like that. So that's something that I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I'm learning that now. Just to say, like, maybe at the beginning I needed a finance mentor. Maybe at the beginning I needed someone very cautious, or I needed someone in sales. And then, once you figure that out, it's like, okay, that mentor for me isn't the best. What should I be looking for now? What am I trying to do in my business now? And I'm going to try to find somebody doing that.
And sometimes, like, I'm a fan of like Shark Tank and The Profit and these business shows, and like you get to see these big CEOs walk into like a business, and what you may think you need help with as a owner is not exactly what you need help with. Like it's 2 different things. You may think you need help with like inventory, but it's actually your logistics or something. Like, so
you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. Being able to bounce that off somebody that's been there, or that's a third set of eyes, or second set of eyes, that like looks at your problem and takes a step back. It's like, look, you're in too deep. and you're not seeing the whole picture. And that's like, I think where a mentor comes in is somebody on the outside is looking into your business and they're saying, you need to go this way because you're not even seeing the path because you're so deep inside of it.
That's good. No, and I've always surrounded myself with like, I'm so optimistic and so like positive and so like, I believe like to get stuff done, you got to jump into it and figure it out as you go, swinging that machete, so to speak, and just like carving your way out. And that's not always the best way. Those are strengths of mine in that I can go into areas people aren't scared to go. I can do stuff first. But there's a lot of other skills too, like systems and process and organization and leadership and management. And, so for me, it's like, it's surrounding myself with maybe like the work smarter, not harder type, because I'm just like that brute, blue collar worker, like just get in there and do it. But like, surrounding myself with maybe the person that's like, oh, that might not be the best way to go. Here's a faster way, or here's an easier way, or here's a more organized way. And that's not to highlight my weaknesses. That's just to say like, that's the voice I need, as a mentor. Anyone could need any different, any different types of mentorship. But for me, like that's something that's good for me is one that's a little bit more cautious, a little bit more, big picture. But typically like the mentors for me are not entrepreneurs. I know that might sound crazy, but, I don't need like another entrepreneur idea guy or idea lady in my life so much as I need some different skills.
Yeah. Well, I find that myself all the time. I think we're wired in a similar, I think the three of us are probably wired in the same way with that entrepreneurial spirit of, going fast, testing stuff out, trying something new, taking a leap, okay with failing here, okay with succeeding here. But a lot of those things that like the processes and like aware, like even on Amazon, even something as simple as when they launched that review request button inside Amazon. I found out about that just from talking to Chris. So something simple, but something that helps the process and, organizing everything, progressing. But for you, I think, like you've grown. I mean, you were seller, now you're an agency, now you're an employer, you've got employees. Those are completely different skill sets. And you, like Chris mentioned, the profit, that show's fascinating sometimes. Like 9 times out of 10 he goes in and he's like, you're a bad manager of people.
Yeah,
you're really good at what you're doing here, but your employees all hate you. There's all, and that's what he's fixing, and helping out. And I think you're right about just bringing in different mentors at different stages of where you are. But I think it starts with us as entrepreneurs wanting and reaching out and trying to establish those mentorships. It's a lot of networking, something I did terrible for years. I was like this guy on an island trying to run an e-commerce business without really talking to people. I would consume YouTube and but you get the data, you get the ideas, but there's a whole other part when you have someone really walking you through it and talking to, it changes the game completely.
I think it all starts with self-awareness, right? Being able to identify those areas in your life that you could be doing a little bit better, or that you might not know what you don't not know. It's going to networking events, hearing speakers, so maybe you're not even engaging, but you're hearing it and you're going back and learning and being like, where can I get this help? Another thing is people love helping people. Like, it's an ego thing in a way, not in a negative way, but it's an ego thing to be able to be like, I can help someone. So one thing my mentor said to me was, make it easy for me to help you, and I think a lot of people like ask for help without understanding exactly what that person's time is worth or what they're doing, or, the kind of money they're making for the same advice or things like that. And it's like, look, I love helping people. If you make it easy for me to help you, I pretty much always say yes. And I kind of learned that about others too, is like, if I can say, hey, there's 3 guests I'm looking for, 3 guests I'd love to have on my podcast, like, about these things, and putting it out there where they're not having to do all the thought work. It makes it really easy for like those types of people to help you. Same thing with mentorship. Like, they're not going to chase you down, so when you have a mentor, like, take, respect their time. Go in there with questions or be prepared. Have done your research before you walk in the room. If it can be Googled or something, like, please do it. These are things I'm saying to anyone like that might be looking to find a mentor, but these are things that were told to me from some of my mentors was, and something else is that I pay for mentorship. Like, I pay for mentorship. I think it's worth that. Whether it's like an Amazon coach, I'm really like, this frame of reference for me is all around like the B2B business, right? That I'm talking about, like the agency business. I spent years and years and years learning Amazon, and no one was doing Amazon. So it was like, there was no one to go to in those, like, to get help, at least when I was doing it. And it was like, feeling like I was in a little cave, researching and everything. I think that was needed, honestly, in those days to like become experts at what we do. But then as soon as it became, okay, I'm trying to build now that I know B2C or Amazon at a very high level, it's like, I want to learn the B2B or the agency side of things, the service-based business, which is a completely different business model, so it's not algorithms and, everything like that. So it was, okay, where now in this business, where can I go to get help? Oh, service-based businesses. Actually, like, these are ones that like people have been doing since the beginning of time. And it felt a lot easier for me to get mentors that were aligned and could speak to the areas of my service-based business easier than it was finding a me, for example, for Amazon. And so I just don't think that existed because we were like first, in the industry, and we were like doing it and figuring it out. But the last thing, I want to add one note onto this, because it's something this is what I'm living every day, guys. I'm traveling, I'm talking to other agency owners. I'm talking to big aggregators. I'm talking to everyone in the space that's done it or is doing it. And, it's like, I come back from some of those things. We're here in the Midwest, but I think being in the Midwest, being in Kansas City has been one of the reasons we are where we are today. Just not being constantly over inundated with what everyone else is doing in the space. We've positioned ourselves now to be a full service agency and focus on branding and building a brand, which is long game, which is what it takes now to launch new brands and be successful at them. And well, it should have been all the time, but Amazon had some loopholes for a few years, right? Where you could just could really build brands doing a lot of things without the branding elements. And so it's like, if I had been chasing the profit, so to speak, like, or just seeing what all these other agencies were doing to make the most money, or these great businessmen were doing, and instead of just obsessing about Amazon, I don't think Marknology would be as deep or as full service as we are, and understanding kind of the whole model. So it was like, in some ways it was, mentorship can be great, but if you don't choose the right ones, we're talking about how to choose the right ones. If you don't choose the right ones, you can spend so much time going in various directions, trying to take advice and just apply it as it comes, instead of being like, what's best for me, what's best for us, based off this information. And just that comparison part of seeing what everyone else is doing. And if you don't have a strong belief in your focus in what you're doing, you can get lost so easily. Be like, should I do this revenue model? Should I do this revenue model? Should I hire these people? Do I need to hire here? Should I be, using this software? What are all the things to do? So that's something that for me has always just created a little bit more cloudiness than focus.
Talk about putting yourself out there, because Dustin and I and Drew yourself, we've used to be, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but we used to do all this internally and not go to network events. And I was against this podcast, and Dustin was like, we got to do it. So talk about going to events and putting yourself out there, how important that is to when you're looking for a mentor, you're actually creating relationships with those same people that you could potentially, they could potentially help you.
So I'm loving the game right now. And I think it's because, I'm fourth generation preacher's kid. I'm not religious, but that's my pedigree. As a missionary kid, and so relationship building and leadership is that's what I was taught. I wasn't taught business and all these different things, right? But I was taught how to run a community, how to be a part of it, how to lead it, as a man of God, right? So with integrity and values and those kinds of things. So when I tap into what comes natural, I'm like, oh, finally, I'm in a phase of my business where I'm building a team and and trying to lead it. And so, that kind of stuff is fun. But I think there's this there's two groups of people. I'm going to generalize a little bit, but bear with me. But there's there's definitely the scarcity mindset, and then there's the abundant. And I think like when you're just getting started and you haven't really worked on all of your mental skills, your EQ skills, et cetera, you might come across a great product idea, or you've come across this thing and you're just like, oh my God, I don't want anyone knowing what I'm selling. I don't want them knowing what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, what my tips and tricks are. And you're worried that you might not come up with another great idea or another good product, or someone's going to take it. I know that with time, all things will be found out, So it's like, I think coming from the service-based side, where my whys were not like, it was getting handed projects with no budget. It was like, taking care of myself and then eventually my family, so my whys were not necessarily like around these products. It was around brand. There's always going to be another brand with a set of products. Like there's unlimited amounts, versus like me coming up with that idea. My ideas were, what are all the different ways to sell these things? Okay. So it's just a different perspective and a different frame of reference for coming at it. But, I wanted brands to believe in what we were doing. And so it was like, let me tell them about.
Did they kick you out too?
Yeah. Booted me.
I don't know what happened. It just kicked us both out. There we go.
Yeah, I got booted too.
Sorry, guys. They didn't like what we were saying. So.
Yeah.
Shadow banned.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, we're back. Hopefully the recording continued.
Yeah. Speaking of putting yourself out there, you are speaking at Prosper coming up in about a week. Give us an idea, like what you're generally talking about, how excited you are to talk about that.
I'm super pumped, guys, because it's been something I manifested. I just wanted to. It was the biggest Amazon conference at the time, especially when I said it. There's a whole lot of great events now worldwide, honestly, but they didn't always exist. And Aton and a couple other founders put the Amazon Prosper conference together. It was really full of Amazon sellers and Amazon vendors. The first conference to do just that and not do everything else. Not a trade show, not an e-com. So a lot of, I think, high level people there and attendees, in that their Amazon knowledge is high. So I'm stoked. I getting to speak on Monday after lunch. We're talking about build your brand. I'm trying to bring some fun stuff, some fun stories. Practicing today because I can be long-winded. I'm like, I gotta keep it like, short and precise and bring the heat. But I'm usually there. I'm usually just walking the showroom and the conference room, instead of actually like speaking or doing a booth. I just like to be on the go. But this year I'm excited. I'm excited to bring it. I'm excited to be plugged in. A lot of the speakers there and the service providers have all just become close friends, or at least like people I know and acquaintances and part of our community. So for me, it's like, it feels like going back to a camp. We were talking about that earlier, but it feels like going back to a camp and seeing all my friends and, just really getting to connect, because the world is really small when it comes to e-commerce and Amazon. I mean, so it's, we really do like, it feels very global, and Prosper is one of those things. So I hope to see you guys there. If anyone else is there, I'd love to have you guys attend my thing on Monday after lunch. Build your brand, or connect after in the conference room. I got the big red beard. Just say hello. I always have a lot of fun at Prosper.
And one thing I'll put there, don't like I used to be scared to go up and talk to people. Like, we're just as scared as they are, right? So just come up and say hi, right? Just come
please,
up and say hi.
please. Like, yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of. We're all chasing the same things and chasing the same goals. So I love it. I would love to meet anyone.
Yep. Well, we're excited to see you there. We can't wait to see you speak. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And yeah, anybody who's going to Prosper, if you're not going, you should go. It's a lot of fun. Just come up to us and say hi. We'd love to chat about anything. It's a lot of fun. Drew, I know we're up against the clock here, but that was a lot of fun. We could almost do a whole series on mentorship. And
really
it's so important. It is the foundation. I mean, if you have to have that, no matter what part of your life it is, whether it's health, fitness, anything, just you have to have a support group. People help guide you the right direction. So thanks for your insights on it. That's been a lot of fun. We'll do this again for sure. Everyone, well, actually, before we go, you got to talk about Marknology. How can people learn more about Marknology and start working with you if they want to?
Yeah, just real quickly, we are marknology.com, marknology.com. Everyone's like, is his name Mark? No, it's not. It's Drew. It's Marknology is I believe e-commerce is the middle point of marketing and technology. It's like, you need both. So just a little fun there. LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Startup Hustle podcast. I personally am on Instagram at Andrew Morgans. If you just want to chat most things non-Amazon, that's a lot of fun for me. But my brands are there on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Would love to chat with anyone. If you're in the KC area, hit me up. We'll get a coffee. Just always looking to talk about Amazon e-commerce and brand building. I absolutely love it. Not just trying to sell you. So if you want to chat it up or chat some stuff you're working on, I would love to chat it up. Hit me up.
Everyone should do that. Obviously, Drew's a good dude and he loves to chat. So make sure you can find him in all those places, lots of places to connect with you. But again, thanks so much for coming on. Hopefully we'll see everybody at Prosper coming up next week. It's going to be exciting. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast if you like content like this, where we get to talk to amazing and cool people like Drew Morgans. You can find also our live streams on our social platforms. So go to Solozo's Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, and you can subscribe there as well and see all the live streams from these episodes. And additionally, if you're interested in having help with your Amazon PPC, Solozo can help you out. You can go to solozo.com right now and book a demo, and you can chat with Chris or myself. We love talking to sellers just like Drew does. So we love to talk with you, and we look forward to seeing you on those demo calls. All right, that's it for today, everybody. We will see you next time.